Hello, hello. Well, I'm still in turn on. Hello, 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 hello. Hey, William, can you hear me? Hello. Oh, nice. Okay, I'm not using my for some reason my headset's not working, so I have to use my laptop uh, microphone. So I'm glad that it's working. All right. Well, finally, I've been trying to work this for like an hour now, and I had to default to my laptop microphone versus using this microphone. So, yep. So I'm good. Looks good to go here. So let's. Oh gosh, for some reason it. Yeah, Mara's been just. I woke up and then I was like, wait, what's going on? So it's nice to see price action today. I mean, looking at Mara, it got close to $20. So what is driving all of this news here? Um, Currently, price action at 12%. So I did see that there was some news that got released. Let's take a look here. So Mara did announce their production data, but I think it's a combination of many things, and I think that this is why we're seeing a lot more movements with the miners. So let's take a look at this. So wow, their fleet efficiency actually improved as well, 20 joules of terahash. So that's good. And they got their hash rate up to 53.2 exahash, 15% improvement over November. And then they got their mining production to 890 Bitcoin. So still good numbers here, still number one, dominating that Bitcoin count. So they got an impressive annual hash rate of 168%, exceeding Bitcoin's network growth of 49%. So here, looking at the numbers, they mined close to 10,000. They purchased 22,000 totals for just overall 2024, 31,000, and then their total HODL count getting close to that 45,000 uh, number. So huge numbers here. 890 Bitcoins for the month of December. A little less than November. However, that's looking really good. I mean, Mara fanboy, yes, you are. I mean, Mara is doing great here. Good news for the miners here, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of price action. Um, Overall, average Bitcoins produced per day. So instead of it being 30 Bitcoins mined per day, 28.7 Bitcoins mined per day, we know that it's getting more and more difficult to mine Bitcoin. But at this number here, just getting around that 30 Bitcoins per day, that's good. And I think as we're headed now into the first half of 2025, I think that with the increase in the hash rate going from like 53 to 70, it's going to start climbing up beyond that 30 threshold range for Bitcoins mined per day. So you think about it, I mean, it's kind of like mining 1 to 2 Bitcoins per hour, but I think it's going to be more of like 2 to 3 Bitcoins mined per hour. So like every 30 minutes, you're getting a Bitcoin reward. But think about all the smaller companies, it's much more difficult. It'll take hours or even days to get 1 Bitcoin mined. So overall, all in all, good, looking good here. Just looking at price action, Bitcoin, we did see it top off today at around like 98,000, but that's really pushing the price up. We're still early in the day. I think Friday is just a good sentiment seeing how Bitcoin is going, but I think, really good news with Mara announcing the data. We had Bitfarm announcing the data as well. Bitfarm had a slight increase with their production data, because, Mara just went above and beyond in November. 907 was their topping point, right? But I think being able to mine consistent numbers from what was achieved, the prior month, because I think for November, their month over month improvement was way better than October data. It was like 20-30% month over month improvement. But just looking at that consistent mining production based on November's performance, 890 is really good, and getting like 28.7 Bitcoins produced per day, you're getting more than 1 Bitcoin per hour. So great news for Mara. I think this is a great start of the new year. I think that Mara was kind of timing when to announce this information, especially with the rise in Bitcoin. We're in the new year. And I just wanted to just read this. As a miner that mines and buys Bitcoin, the hybrid approach provides a significant flexibility to acquire Bitcoin at attractive prices. It further allows us to capitalize on market conditions by buying Bitcoin during price declines, optimizing our acquisition costs. We believe we maintain a competitive advantage through mining operations, enabling us to produce Bitcoin at a lower cost than the prevailing spot price. We believe this dual approach strengthens our position and enhances our ability to deliver long-term shareholder value. So what Mara is saying is, yes, we're using the MSTR playbook to increase our auto count, and during times when we see price declines, we're going to capitalize as well. And all of that's really going to allow for us to strengthen our position using this dual approach to add long-term shareholder value. So I think Mara is definitely running today. It's great to see such price action going on. I mean, Mara right now at like 12.9% gain. We look at MSTR, it's climbing as well, 8%. Price of Bitcoin is flirting, getting above that 98,000. It did break through that number recently. We look at Riot platforms at 15%. We look at CleanSpark close to 12%. So this is all looking very good. I've been talking about the big three miners, the auto counts, really going to take off. And I think we're seeing that. I think MSTR, a lot of investors who held on, especially with that price point of 550, going down to sub 280s. I think we're beginning to see that climbing trajectory MSTR, and whether it can break through that 380, start testing the 400 range, we'll see. But I think with that recent downward movement with the price of Mara, it was at 1950. In fact, it almost got close to $20 breakthrough, but the support level here, 1920 through the intraday trading, I think we're going to start seeing some good price action throughout the entire day today, especially with the movements that we're seeing. So let's see. So, if you have any questions, put a Q in the front, and I'd love to answer any of those questions. Give me just a few seconds here. All right. So definitely great updates today. We're seeing some movements, and it's nice to see, just price action going up here. So Mara or CleanSpark or MicroStrategy, marry one, dump one, befriend one. Hey, how about if you have conviction in all of these? How do you play that? But I get your point. It's kind of like you got to go with one. You can't stick with all. But if you like all of them, it's kind of like you know um, you disperse it. Fingers crossed, it's a turnaround. Yes, definitely. I think we've been seeing just really bad performance in the year 2024. But I kept talking about seasonality being one of the biggest driving factors, and I think Mara will dominate. Really, just looking at their numbers here, I mean, solid news. They increased their Bitcoin HODL to 44,893. So, in about, I'd say, January, let's see, in about like 5 days, it's gonna get towards 5 days or less, they're going to be at like 45,000 Bitcoin. They increased their fleet efficiency, their hash rate, I'm sorry, to 53.2, and fleet efficiency now at 20 joules per terahash. So CleanSpark at one point was like at 19 joules per terahash. They got it down to 17 joules per terahash, but I think ultimately right now Mara's focus is ramp up that hash rate. We'll worry about fleet efficiency over time as we start scaling up our operational efficiency. So a little bit of a different business model. It's kind of like a give and take. You have high throughput with mining at high capacity with your hash rate. So you got to give a little bit with your fleet efficiency. But overall, all in all, with their 249 blocks mined, that's the second most blocks in a month on record. So great job to Mara and their team there. I think there's going to be substantial growth coming along the way. So I think overall, all in all, we're going to see a lot of price action for the big three miners here, especially with the upward trajectory with Bitcoin. We see Bitcoin beginning to climb back. I mean, back in end of December 30th, there was like a lot of fear as to whether Bitcoin was going to go down. This is from a zoomed in perspective here. We saw that top point of 108, and since then 91,000 from December 17, about 2 weeks of just downward trending. But now, just the last couple of days here, we see that upward motion. Hopefully, we can see more bullish pattern signals so we can continue capitalizing. MSTR is really taking advantage of the price of Bitcoin, consolidating in an upward range here, which is why we see an 8% gain. So MSTU, MSTR, I think they're doing really well right now too. So it's good to see some bounce back with Mara's recent slight drop off during the intraday here. Now it's at the mid $19, so looking very healthy. Riot, it was at that $12 point. Now it's at 1201 at close to 15%. CleanSpark is also performing quite well here at close to 12%. So what are your thoughts? Let me know what your questions are, so I can answer any questions that you all have here. So fingers crossed, it's a turnaround. Oh yes, indeed. So MSTR, ETP times 3 and coin 248 times 3 CLSK times Mara 5 times ride it up. When stocks price actions make no sense, double down. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about dollar cost averaging for a number of days and weeks now, right? During those red days, a lot of people just get turned off during those days, but I think those days are when you can really capitalize on making huge returns. And as a long investor, if you believe in companies like Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, or even like Bitfarms, I think that's where you take advantage and really capitalize. Okay, so yep, to your point, when stocks price action makes no sense, double down. Yeah, and Bitcoin went up, 115% throughout 2024. What happened with the miners? It was down like 30%, close to 40%, 25%, right? A lot of it didn't make sense, even though we got all-time highs. But today, look, it doesn't make sense where we see miners going up and we see, Bitcoin up, not to the degree that we see it with the miners. So that's why we like, the miners, because while we saw underperformance in 2024, I think that we're at a different time point here. So here with William, if Bitcoin holds a 4-hour candle above 98,000, we should be looking at all-time highs. Yes, and we've been talking about the price of Bitcoin. So, yesterday's video, we talked about how HC Wainwright has price forecasts of, close to 225,000 for the price of Bitcoin. And I think there's also talks about, Bitcoin, its 200-week moving average, which typically ends at every halving event. So we have about 3.5 years for the next halving event. So it's estimated that during that next 200-week average cycle, it's going to be around 500,000. But I think from a realistic standpoint, let's see how fast we can get to 120, 130,000 first. And can you imagine the price of, like MSTR, Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot? So it looks like MSTR is bull running now, getting up to 9%. So I think the shorts are trying to cover. And we talked about that too, right? Like, like yesterday, the day before, if Bitcoin can break through that 96,500, shorts are going to start having that fear factor kick in and just wonder whether they're going to have to start covering their overall positions. So shorts, are they trying to cover themselves right now by buying shares back, of the miners? I think it's possible, especially seeing Mara run up here close to $20. I think we're going to start seeing, Mara break through that 20 zone, start climbing back up 22, 23. And we've seen, Mara just retest on multiple occurrences, right? Just zooming out here. I mean, it got up to $30 at the end of November. So it's only been like a matter of weeks where it dropped down to 16. So I think that we're going to see that big green candle come up very soon, at least for Mara price range here, definitely. Um, so I think, to William's point, the 4-hour candle, yes, we're going to see that with Bitcoin, and I think we're going to see a lot of big vertical candles with the miners here. So as for Cobra, too much headwinds for Bitcoin with the new administration. Yeah, so administration is going to be coming in like 17 days, 20th of January. So I think U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, we're wondering whether there's going to be announcement on how we go about with Bitcoin. But you look at it, I think there's Michael Saylor working with Eric Trump, Donald Trump's son, yesterday at the Mar-a-Lago, and I think that's really what's driving price of Bitcoin up. They're talking about the strategy for the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, and I think MSTR is going to be one of those players involved. But you think about it, I mean, the big three, they're actually going to be involved as well. They have that dual threat where they have mined Bitcoin and they bought Bitcoin, so they have that similar playbook as what MSTR does. So they do have Bitcoins that attracts the government, and they also have facilities that attract the government. That's with the energy incentives. So Mara, I think, you know, CleanSpark, Riot, along with other big time companies, they have potential to really add value here to the shareholders, especially like what Fred Thiel mentioned here. So let's just take a look at Riot price charts here. So we did see Riot get up, to like 1587 back in November time point, went down and then it popped back up to 1450. A lot of profit taking we saw here, and then got back down to the sub tens, and we see this large candlestick here. But I think that we can potentially see that retest of the $18 that we saw, back in February 2024, when Bitcoin started having that cycle of appreciation from the bearish cycle from 2022. So $18, I think we can definitely retest. Whether that's Q1 of 2025, that'd be great to see that. CleanSpark, just looking at the overall charts here, we did see CleanSpark. They were like the workhorse of the miners early on of 2024, right? I mean, it was like at $6 when we opened up the new year. last year, $6, ran all the way up to like close to $25. So that's about 400 to 500% gains within a matter of like weeks, from like February to March. So a lot of profit taking actually happening here at that, top off point. I was able to time that portion as well on a small scale, topping it off at $23 and just continue dollar cost averaging down, even though didn't get it at that price point of like $9, but dollar cost averaging down from a near term perspective, just bringing down your cost average around this time point will definitely add value as we start seeing that green candlestick start popping back up. That's at least for CleanSpark. But I think overall, all in all, great news for Mara, and it's interesting to see, a lot of other miners soon to be announcing their Bitcoin production data. Okay, so let's see what all the comments here are. So it looks like we have a good number of folks here with 17 members. So let me know what your questions are. If you have any questions, I would appreciate you putting a queue at the front so I can read through it. One moment, please. All right, I'm back. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Janko, thanks for joining in. Also, guys, like if you're new to this channel, if you can just take a moment to like and subscribe to All I See Is W, because what we do here is, you know, it's gaining on positive proceeds and leading with an altruistic mindset. So building on our mental health, physical health, our finances, our soul set, our heart set, our wealth set, all of that comes into play. So hopefully, um, so MSTR or CLSK to buy. So Janko, so let's take a look at the price action here. So MSTR, we look back, we saw that high point of like $550. That's when Citron announced that shorting that they're now hedging against MSTR, right? So we saw that news that came out, and I think that was like an 800% run up to 550. So we've seen MSTR drop by about 50% just recently from 280 to 327. And I do think there's more room in the tank here for MSTR. Question is in terms of percent appreciation. That really depends. I think some of the driving factors that really attract investors is one, MSTR is now in the Nasdaq QQQ. Two, there's the backing with the administration, working directly with Eric Trump, Michael Saylor. So that really attracts a lot of investors. So I think there's going to be a lot more money inflows, especially with ETFs getting MSTR on their ETF. From a value standpoint, looking at CleanSpark, of course, we don't see that same level of news where we'll see like, Donald Trump working with CleanSpark, but we did see, pictures at the time when we had that Nashville event with Donald Trump speaking to the Bitcoin community, where the CEOs, did meet with Donald Trump. So I think there's a lot of discussion going around and behind the scenes, just to talk about how the North American miners are really going to add value and support the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve. But from a value standpoint, the fact that it went up $18, November timeframe and down to like the sub $8, I think there's a lot of potential here. Seeing the price action of like CleanSpark, along with the other miners I talked about, like Riot as well. There's going to be that upward motion. Mara now currently at 14%. I think all of this is looking really good. So hope that answers your question. So hopefully CleanSpark can pass the $24 and push past up away. So I think the sky is the limit here, especially with the miners. 2025, we're in a new year. It's hindsight 2024, lots of beatdowns. Hodler miners really didn't do well. We saw a lot of HPC AI companies doing well, but I think overall, all in all, I think just looking at, so we have like Hut, BitDeer, they're doing well. iBit ETF isn't really moving much. Iron is doing well. Core Scientific is doing well. But I think a lot of what we see in terms of price action is like the hodlers, like the main big time Bitcoin miners, right? So I see there's a lot of price action with the big time miners here. So like Mara, Riot, CleanSpark, those are the companies that have institutional investors, right? We talked about that as well, where Vanguard, BlackRock, these are the main players that have acquired a number of shares of these big three miners. So Bitcoin now at 98,000. Yeah, let's take a look. Oh, yes. So it surpassed 98,000. I think that's really what's driving up. So we're seeing a lot more inflows going on here. So that's a good sign here. Bitcoin ETFs nearly $110 billion, comprising of 5.7 Bitcoin total supply. I think on a broader scale, when you look at the global markets, that's really going to start having more inflows, especially with ETFs getting created, more money flowing into ETFs. A lot of money's flowing into the exchanges as well, like in the crypto market. And I think that's really going to create that big wave where the price of Bitcoin is going to just catapult. We're in a new state, guys. I mean, Bitcoin, we were all like, speculating with Bitcoin before, whether it's valuable and all that. But with the 16 years of proof now, I think Bitcoin is going to have that huge run up. You know, now it's like I'm questioning whether 120, 130,000 is that top off kind of low, especially with HC Wainwright, who's very involved with like the miners and the Bitcoin sector, as well as just with the overall stock market, forecasting 225,000 in the year 2025 alone. So I think there's potential here, but Riot, Mara, CleanSpark now at 15%, 13%, 12%. I think it's looking very solid here, especially with the price action. So looking very good. And, I think, today is a great day, Friday, right? Especially before the weekend. I think, we're looking very good here. So Jake, thanks for Antwerp. Okay, you're welcome. So Cobra with the question here with the Q. So thank you for adding that Q. What's your take on MSTR price at say 120K Bitcoin? That's a very good question. So let's go back and let's look here. Okay, so let's say if and when Bitcoin breaks through that 120K, I'm thinking, at the soonest we can see that 120K sometime between this month and next month, February. I may be wrong, but I think those are the 2 months where we're going to see a lot of pushing up, especially with quarterly results. We're going to get some quarterly results from like MSTR. I don't know when that's going to be announced, their quarterly results, but miners' quarterly results, we're going to see that announcement as well. So if one can actually do the research as well, so out of the miners, like in Q3, which miner actually announced their quarterly results first? And possibly we can look back to see last year, Q4, which miners announced quarterly results. And then we can get like an assessment as to which miners will be announcing the news, as well as MSTR. But overall, if and when Bitcoin breaks through that 120K, so just to keep in mind that $550 was the time post the presidential election. So around that time, Bitcoin was like hovering past 90,000, right? Getting to 95,000. And then December timeframe was when, it had some down and ups, and then it reached its all-time high of 108,000 around like early December, right? So MSTR went first because of that rising all-time high, breaking through that 90,000, 100,000. So I think because we've never seen that with Bitcoin, MSTR went much faster. But if and when, Bitcoin starts going at a new all-time high where we're seeing, Bitcoin surpass the price that it's never reached beyond that 108,000, I think we're going to see that retest definitely. It's going to, I think, before getting to that 120, it's going to have to retest that $480 time point first. And depending on how we see the stability of 480, I'm going to put that at the resistance line. But once it gets to 120K, we can definitely see that potential retest of the 550, or it's going to start getting into that $600 zone. I think Bernstein forecast for 2025 MSTR is around the $600 time point. So you're looking at a potential 1x gain with MSTR for 2025 as a potential. Just to keep in mind too, looking at MSTR seasonality, they perform, just 2023 alone. So from this time point where I have the cursor to 2023, they had like a 300% gain from the year 2023 to the beginning of 2024. So 2024, we do know that, at one point they got up to 800% gain, but ended the year 400%. So when you factor in the last 2 years of profits for MSTR, that's 700% price appreciation. So just going back here, right, January timeframe, $5 now to $329. That's just monstrous, wild movements with the price appreciation. So that's why MSTR is really the titan, the king of the Bitcoin community. But as we look at other miners like CleanSpark, Mara, Riot, I think these are the hidden gem companies that's not getting much attention. Yes, we do know Mara, Riot have been around for quite some time. We did see that huge run up as well, right? I mean, running all the way up to $83. It's been dormant for many years now, right? That big V-shaped run up happened, but I think that we shouldn't neglect the fact that these type of miners won't have that potential for a huge run up. Yes, we hear about dilution and all that, but I think that rate of change, that speed velocity, we can see that start kicking in for these miners, because when Mara ran at that one point, Riot also ran at one point as well. That fast V shape up. So I think because it's been dormant for so long from a long-term perspective, we have that potential to see that run up along with CleanSpark. See, it had that run up as well. So I think big stick candles will start coming in for these miners that's been dormant for many years now from a long-term perspective. Currently, Bitcoin at 98,000, so that's looking pretty solid here. Okay, so just going through the chat. So MSTR blasting off. So yes, MSTR is definitely blasting off here. Can you check on coin? Thanks. So price of coin, let's take a look here. So Coinbase currently at close to 5%. But just looking at it from a yearly chart, at 350, I think that we've seen some huge sell-off here going on, right? 350 now at down to like 250. Let's take a look at the monthly performance. Monthly performance, from that top point of 350 down to 240. So a little less than like 25% drop off. I think that it can potentially climb back, especially with the rising price of Bitcoin getting up to 120. So, all time, just on a 5-year chart, it got up to 429. That's their high point back in 2021. So I think there's room for coin to start kicking in the gears to start appreciating with its price. So I'm thinking somewhere around 330 potentially in the the next couple months here with the price of Coinbase. Yeah, MSTR. Yeah, I think a lot of this here, has to do with the recent Mar-a-Lago partnership between Michael Saylor and Eric Trump. So Eric Trump, he's a lot younger than his dad, right? Donald Trump, our president. But I think because there is that partnership, and with Eric Trump did stating that Bitcoin's going to 1 million, right? I think 1 million is achievable uh, not long from now. But Michael Saylor is suggesting 20 years from now, on an average case, it'll be, on a conservative level, like 14 million. But what about the bullish level, right? So we're talking about two commas in the millions as at one point. And can you imagine how much uh, growth MSTR would be at, especially with the market cap, hodling, 500,000 of Bitcoin, and they're trying to get more shares issued, different from what shares are available. So that's more of dilution, but shares issued so that they can acquire more Bitcoin. The fact that they got onto a QQQ Nasdaq 100, I think a lot of people are liking this because now when you're investing in, index funds, QQQ, you're technically owning a portion of Bitcoin. So, currently MSTR at like 10% here. I think there's some huge price action where shorts are going to start covering now, I think. So the fear factor's kicked in. So I think a lot of people are getting worried, especially with the bear case statements. You're welcome, Akbar, and hopefully you all can subscribe to this channel, add value, and hopefully we can just continue, just diving deep into price action. Okay, so February 4th, MSTR. So yep, that's going to be coming up, and I think just with inauguration, the 20th MSTR announcement, they're going to blow things out of the water. Bitcoin price has gone up, and the cost for what they purchased Bitcoin at a much lower cost. All of that's going to be, positive information on their income statement. Mara should break $20 today. So let's take a look at Mara. So 1942 current state, intraday trading, it's hovering. Wow. So yeah, so typically what we've been seeing is like right when the market opens, we see like the miners go up and then it starts getting shorted down. But here it's nice to see that beautiful upward motion from an intraday trading here, right? So a lot of the shorters, what they were doing today didn't really work because I think we just see that money inflows coming in, that consistent, plateau effect here. So I think bullish signals are kicking in. RSI perhaps is looking a lot different, but let's take a look at what analysts are saying for Mara here. So this is based on just Webull here. 14 analysts are suggesting a buy here. Average price currently at 1942. They're saying here last updated December 27, high price of $44. So the question is when they're thinking that's the case. Short interest here. I think William has been researching this a lot here on the short interest. So it's grown from like 65 million to 78 million as of December 13. But I think shorts are going to have to cover um, institutional holdings. So we see here, I mean, overall, all in all, an increase in institutional holdings here. So green bypasses the decrease. So that's looking good. Percent institutions at 38%. Press release. Yep, we got the overall news um, that the hash rate climbed 15%, and overall, all in all, with their hash rate now at 53.2 exahash. I really like their fleet efficiency numbers too that they announced, 20 joules per terahash. So they're dominating, leading number one with hash rate, right? They're not dominating in the fleet efficiency, but because they have the highest hash rate, they're the number one mining producer right now, right? Acquiring about less than 30 Bitcoins per day. So like for every hour, they're mining, 1.5 Bitcoins per day. But as they get their hash rate up to like 70, that's probably going to be like 2 to 3 Bitcoins in an hour. So every 30 minutes, you're going to hear that, that indicator, another Bitcoin mined, another Bitcoin mined. But when you look at other companies, like Bitfarms mining 200, Bitcoins per month. So that'll be at a much lower rate. But overall, all in all, good numbers here. Really good, healthy movement with Riot, Clean Spark, Mara at 13%, Riot at 15%, Bitcoin price at 98,000. Really good information here. So kudos to all of us who are, let's say, if you're not invested or invested, congratulations. I think there's more to come here. Mara should break $20. Yeah, we still have a couple hours here. I think there's going to be more price action coming up here soon. So we're looking at a decent state, to be honest. So hopefully coin can break its upper limit and enter price discovery. Yeah, I think, coin is, I think right now a lot of people are are interested in MSTR because of a lot of the news that's going on with Michael Saylor, the $100,000 party. We have, price cases where there's scenarios where people are saying it's going to go up to 225,000 this year, with global game theory going on, with US hodling Bitcoin. We have a president coming up, entering the White House in like, close to 2 weeks. A lot of this, and we see Eric Trump partnering up with Michael Saylor. So, for Michael Saylor to get more shares issued, he's going to use all that money to buy up Bitcoin. And where are all those Bitcoin ledgers going to be stored? Well, all of that's going to be protected in the United States. So, how is that going to benefit the United States? We'll see that trade-off between the two, between MSTR and overall U.S. government. But I think we're going to hear a lot more incentives coming out between the two. Okay, so it looks like we have 21 folks here. So yeah, if you all can leave, like a question here. Let me just, okay, so I'm just going to, leave a question here and would love to see what your response is. So I just put a poll in the chat here. Would like to see what the responses are. So Bitfarms is being suppressed. So what's the current price of Bitfarms currently? Let me check. So currently at 6% Bitfarms. Yes, it's being suppressed, but I think Bitfarms is that hidden gem. It was at 140. Now it's like 170. So it's getting back up close to $2, and I think it's going to break up to the $3.80 range and retest that $4 range. Not a lot of people are talking about Bitfarms, but I think because it's been heavily oversold, we're going to see that V shape with Bitfarms. So why did Mara break out today? What was the catalyst? So Alter, I think you may have joined a little later here, but let me just kind of recap here. Okay, so we got 7 votes. So I know there's more people here, but if you all can, answer, the poll, I'll end it in about 1 minute. So if you all can answer the polling here. So do you believe MSTR will outperform miners in 2025? So that's with the understanding that 2023 and 2024, MSTR has been consistently outperforming all companies. All right, so I'm going to end the poll. It looks like we have 88% voting for no, MSTR will not outperform the miners in 2025. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts here. So we got 8 votes. So most of everyone here is forecasting that miners will dominate in 2025. Okay. So any questions? I would appreciate you putting a Q at the front. Okay, so yeah, that's a great point. So let's. Okay, I'm going to keep it broad here. So what are your top 3 stocks? For some reason, I'm not able to see. Okay, so I see here we have Janko indicating clean spark. Okay, continue chatting. Let me know what the top 3 stocks are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the Q&A here. Okay, so William's top 3: Mara, Clean Spark, MSTR. Definitely a great triple threat there, with Mara, Clean Spark, being hugely undervalued. MSTR with that 50% drop off in price, I think now it's beginning to consolidate and get back up. Cobra has an interesting case here. So MSTR, Coinbase is an undervalued play, which has some room to go up. But I think even if it goes up, it won't go up to the level that you would see in but I think it's a stable play. So I think that's a healthy decision making there. And CleanSpark, yep, CleanSpark, with that run up of $18, I think that CleanSpark has that room to run up. In chain here, CleanSpark, Bitfarms, and Mara. Interesting case. I actually like that those 3 stocks as well. I think CleanSpark, Mara, definitely undervalued depending on your price point there. And Bitfarms, it's extremely undervalued. They actually mined, better numbers this month, December 222. So I think Bitfarms price is going to start climbing here. But overall, all in all, I think this was a great price action day. I'll leave it for one more question, and then we perhaps can, end this live session. And of course, I will create a video later today, just to summarize just all of the, the updates here. And Janko, thanks for sharing your top 3: Clean Spark, Riot, MicroStrategy. So, yep, I think those are some solid plays here. So just to recap, MSTR doing very well today. I think especially with Eric Trump meeting with Michael Saylor, I think there's a lot more movement going on. And because of that, we see MSTR climbing to like close to 10%. Question is, can it get to like 12, 13% before the end of the day, or even more? I think it's climbing up here. And that's with the consistent, Bitcoin numbers climbing up to 97, 98,000. Once it breaks through that 100,000 barrier, we're going to start seeing some run-ups. Mara at 12%. Let's hope for, come the noontime, we're going to see some more price action here. But I think overall, from the opening of today's market, 6:30, 9:30 a.m., it's been climbing up, now consistent. So I think that's healthy growth. Riot today, currently, up $1.51. At one point, it got up to $12.13. Now it's hovering at that, close to $12, 15% appreciation. Healthy state right at that market opening, steady increase. Now just that consistent plateau there. So let's see how well these big three miners perform here. Coin is up as well. Very interesting to see Coinbase, steadily climbing as well. And let's just, pull up CleanSpark charts here. CleanSpark also opening up healthy state now at, $10.59 with a 12% gain. I think we're looking really good here, just with the way we're seeing the markets behave in the new year. Just bit farms, right? We did see November timeframe close to that $3 at $1 and 48 cents. If it gets to 280, that's a 1x gain already, which I definitely think we're going to see that retest for sure. And then great news with Mara announcing, the hash rate achievement towards the end of the year, 15% improvement. They had a slight 2% decline, but all in all, mining close to about 30 Bitcoins per day. So every hour they're mining, over 1 Bitcoin per hour. That's impressive. And energized hash rate, towards the end of the year, 53.2 energized hash rate compared to what they were at last year. Depending on when they fully deployed their hash rate, whether it was like the end of the year or like midpoint of the year, that hasn't been factored in. But I think that because they energized their hash rate in last year, we're going to see January really reflect what's their true mining capacity. So I'm thinking we're going to see this go possibly beyond that 30 time point there, from my perspective. Okay, so Cobra, I have MSTR and Coin on ETP, so they will outperform miners. We'll have to see. Yeah, that's a great question. We don't have that magic 8 ball to tell like which ones are going to outperform or not. So the question here: do you think the inauguration will be sell the news for miners? That's a great point, but I think because we've seen, the miners overall, all in all, drop for the last couple of weeks here, depending on how fast the miners run up, right? I think, from now to the inauguration, there's still like at least 2 weeks of trading. What if miners just explode in the next 2 weeks? Yes, to some degree, people are going to do some profit taking. I think all of that's going to be potential selling news for the miners, but let's say you're long-term investing, then there's more potential for investors to hold on for the long-term gains on the capital. So MSTR just broke 330. Interesting. Wow, 10%. So we're going to start seeing more gap ups here. Just scaling out a little bit. 550. We saw a lot of red candles here, but I think we're going to start seeing more green candles here, just based on technicals. Okay, and then Bitcoin, just right at that time point of, getting close to that 98,000. So Christian, thanks for joining, man. Great day today. This live has been going on for a little close to an hour. I'll leave it for one more question. If anyone has any question, perhaps I can answer one last question, and then perhaps just a reminder for everyone, if channel would love your support with the subscribe, and I'll definitely create a video later today and release that. But I'll leave it for one more question. And as for a live, I'm most likely going to be going on live tomorrow as well after like a video release. So we'll have that continued discussion. Okay, so looks like we have, well, 21 folks on here. So it looks like the numbers are growing here. So any last questions? I'll take one more question from anyone here. Um, but all in all, great movement we're seeing. Bitcoin getting up 98,000 here. MSTR over 10.4%. Mara, I think Mara is going to start climbing up as well. We're seeing MSTR climb. I think Mara is going to start breaking the 13% onward. Riot, 14.8%. Bitfarms, 6%. Clean Spark, 12.4%. Mara announced their overall updates for December's production and mining operations. Consistent data we're seeing with Bitcoins produced per day. Now their overall HODL rate count is like close to 45,000. I think all of that's really driving up the price of the miners. MSTR, I think the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve with Eric Trump and Michael Saylor connecting yesterday at the Mar-a-Lago. Inaugurations happening in the next couple of weeks here. Price of Bitcoin going up, with the all-time high of 108. We're getting a lot of forecasts about 225,000 for this year, even 500,000 for the next 3 years. So a lot of price action that we're seeing just overall with these plays here. So anybody using a ×2, ×3 on MSTR, I'm based in the UK, so I have to use Granite shares. Interesting. So I really don't know how all of that works, especially like if you're an investor outside of the United States. So Cobra, I appreciate you joining all the way from the UK here. It's great that we have online technology where we all can meet different time points here. I don't know how all of that works there. So please, technical analysis for CLSK and when they announce results for December 24th mining. So technical analysis for CleanSpark. I mean, I'll do that. So I think, just drawing some lines here, we saw that retest resistance of like 17, right? $17. That was the retest, but we did see the big retest is really going to be that early retest that we saw last year, February timeframe. So that's like the big retest there in teal. This is like the interim retest here. I think because we've seen CleanSpark achieve that $24, $25, that first tier 1 retest is like $17. I think we're going to see that in the next couple of weeks or heading into February. But because we retested that $24, depending on how the RSI goes, but I think if RSI just starts running up like vertical launch type above 70 relative strength index, and if the Ichimoku cloud, the price gets above that, we're going to start seeing CleanSpark potentially start running up, getting to retest that yellow and the prior resistance value that we saw about a year ago, less than a year ago, around March, April 2024 timeframe. Okay, so I hope that helps. All right, so that was the last request, but I hope that you all enjoyed this live stream here. Thanks you all for joining, and just wanted to thank you for the continued support. And please make sure, folks, to subscribe if you all are new to this channel. Okay, and yep, thank you, William, for the support here with announcing the like and subscribe. Yep. can't do it without you guys here. But you all have a good Friday, and let's just continue gaining on positive proceeds and leading with an altruistic mindset. So when will be the next stream? So Christian, I'll be streaming again tomorrow, perhaps like sometime around this time, either it's earlier or after. I typically try to record, do some live streaming, which is new, and then I'd like to get to the gym and work out and all that too, because I typically do that every day for the most part. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll kind of just announce it as well as to when, just so at least you guys get a preliminary update as to when the stream will take place. But hope you guys have a blessed Friday, and hope you guys can take a breather. And it's great to see miner movement, MSTR movement, and Bitcoin movement. Okay, so hopefully we all just start the new year with the big bang and more to come. So God bless you all. Take care.